It was one of those nights in early October when the air over northern Texas feels like it can't quite decide if it's still summer or if fall has finally got its grip on the land. The crickets were loud, the streets mostly empty, and the faint smell of mesquite smoke drifted over from someone's backyard grill. Trevor had been delivering pizzas for 3 months now, ever since his uncle got him the job at Primo S. Pies off Highway 287. He liked the job well enough, it paid for gas smokes, and a few nights out drinking with friends in Wichita Falls, but mostly he liked that it let him drive around late at night with nobody telling him what to do. He thought of himself as a lone wolf, headlights cutting through the darkness, the open road stretching ahead forever. That night, though, his shift stretched later than usual. The Cowboys game was on, and orders had been piling up like crazy. By the time it was near midnight, the manager, a tired guy named Joel with bloodshot eyes and grease-stained jeans, handed Trevor one last delivery slip and said, "Last one, then you're done. Some ranch out past Archer City. Big tip, probably." "Don't screw it up." Trevor took the slip, barely glancing at the address. He didn't know much about Archer City except that it was small, quiet, and surrounded by long stretches of dark farmland. The kind of place where if your car broke down, you'd be waiting a while before another pair of headlights showed up. He tossed the 3 pizzas into the hot bag, grabbed his keys, and lit a cigarette before pulling out into the empty night. The drive started simple highway, flat fields stretching on both sides, the glow of distant oil rigs flickering on the horizon. But the further he got from town, the darker it became, until the only light was his own beams and the occasional green highway sign. The directions on the slip weren't straightforward either. They led him off the main road onto a cracked asphalt lane that seemed like it hadn't seen maintenance since the 70s. His tires crunched over gravel, then dirt, as the address guided him deeper into what felt like the middle of nowhere. After about 20 minutes, his GPS gave up entirely, spinning its little circle before freezing. Trevor cursed under his breath and leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. He saw nothing but barbed wire fences and tall grass bending in the faint breeze. Then, just as he was thinking he'd made a wrong turn, he spotted a narrow driveway marked by a rusted mailbox leaning at an angle. The numbers on it matched the order slip. The driveway was long, twisting, and overgrown on both sides by thick trees that clawed toward the road like skeletal arms. His high beams picked up movement, something darting off into the brush, maybe a coyote. He swallowed and pressed the gas a little harder, suddenly eager to hand over the pizzas, grab his tip, and head back toward civilization. Finally, the trees broke, and he saw the house. It was huge, bigger than any ranch-style place he'd ever delivered to. But it wasn't new or pretty. It looked old, sagging in places, its white paint blistered and flaking off. The porch sagged under its own weight, and only one window glowed with light. Trevor pulled up and parked, leaving his car running just in case. The place gave him the creeps immediately. He grabbed the pizzas and walked up the cracked path, his boots crunching against gravel, the night air strangely heavy with silence. At the door, he knocked. The sound echoed as if the inside of the house was empty. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the door creaked open just a crack, and a voice slipped through, high and whispery, almost childlike. "You're late." Trevor blinked, adjusting the pizza bag in his hands. Sorry, traffic." "Got your order here. 3 large pies." The door opened a little wider, but still, he couldn't see much inside. Just darkness and the faint outline of someone small standing back in the shadows. "Bring it in," the voice said. Something about that didn't sit right. Company policy was never to go inside too much liability if something got stolen, or worse. "I can just hand it over here," Trevor said, forcing a grin. "Hot and fresh." The voice giggled, but it wasn't a child's giggle, not really. It was higher pitched, yes, but strange, drawn out. like whoever was laughing didn't quite know how to make the sound right. "Bring it in," it repeated, firmer this time. Trevor shifted uneasily. His gut told him to drop the pizzas, turn around, and drive away, tip or no tip. But then he thought about Joel chewing him out, maybe cutting his hours, and he sighed. "All right," he muttered. "Just for a second." He stepped inside. The air was colder than outside, almost damp, and it smelled faintly of rot-like wet wood and old meat. The light he'd seen from outside came from a single oil lamp sitting on the floor in the corner, its flame sputtering weakly. He blinked, trying to adjust, and saw the figure more clearly now. It was small, yes, maybe the size of a kid, but its proportions were off. The arms were too long, the head tilted at a sharp angle, and the way it moved jerky, twitchy, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings, made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. "Set them down," the figure said, pointing at a warp table in the middle of the room. Trevor obeyed quickly, setting the pizzas down and pulling his hand back fast. He wanted to leave, badly. But when he turned toward the door, it was shut. He hadn't heard it close. His chest tightened. So, that'll be $36.75, he said, trying to keep his voice light. The figure tilted its head further, almost upside down now, and stepped closer into the glow of the lamp. Trevor caught sight of its face. At first, it did look like a child's, pale, round, with dark hair falling over the forehead. But the eyes weren't right. They were too wide, too shiny, reflecting the lamplight like glass marbles. And the mouth stretched too far when it smiled, showing too many teeth, all small and needle-sharp. Trevor stumbled backward, his breath catching. "Look, man, I don't need the tip. Just keep the pizzas, okay?" The smile grew wider. The voice deepened, losing its childlike lilt, becoming something guttural and raw. "Stay." Behind him, from deeper in the house, something moved. He heard dragging sounds, slow and heavy, like someone pulling a sack of wet sand across the floorboards. Then another sound scratching, as though claws were raking the inside of the walls. Trevor bolted. He grabbed the doorknob, yanking, but it wouldn't budge. Locked? He pounded on the wood, shouting, "Open! Open! God damn it!" But behind him, the dragging sound grew closer, louder, joined now by wet breathing. When he turned, just once, he saw them shapes crawling out of the shadows, too many limbs, too many eyes glinting in the weak light. One of them had a face that flickered between looking human and something else, stretched and wrong, like skin worn over an animal's skull. The lamp sputtered and went out. The next morning, Joel called Trevor's phone 5 times before finally sending another driver to check the address. They found the car still idling at the edge of the driveway, headlights on, driver's door wide open. The pizzas were gone. Trevor was gone. And in the dust by the porch, faintly visible in the morning light, were dozens of small, bare footprints, circling back and forth, leading into the woods. Trevor's family put up posters, the sheriff organized search parties, but nothing ever turned up. People in town whispered about that ranch house, said it had been empty for years, condemned after a fire took half the roof. Nobody lived there, not anymore. But sometimes, late at night, if you drive past Archer City with your windows down, you can smell pizza dough and cheese drifting out of the fields, carried on the wind, along with faint laughter that doesn't sound quite human. And if you follow it, if you're foolish enough to pull up to that broken mailbox, don't be surprised if a small voice greets you from the doorway, whispering that you're late.